I can see a castle filled with shimmering lights.
I can see a guitar made out of souls.
I can see half-price pickled onions.
Before we get going today, I just wanted to say thank you for getting us to over 1,000 subscribers. A huge thank you to Lisa, Tallula, Jess, Ange, Dave, Kyle, Rob and everyone who's chipped in. But most importantly, thank you for watching, subscribing, sharing, commenting and just being amazing. We wouldn't be doing any of this without you, so thank you from the heart of our bottoms. Anyway, on with the card. The Seven of Cups is a card of fantasies and illusions. It represents that part of ourselves that likes to drift off from our immediate surroundings and into another world that's entirely conjured up by our imagination. That can manifest itself in a couple of different ways. First, there's the sort of grand vision that's completely removed from reality. We might fly off into some Tolkien-esque fantasy land full of dragons and wizards, or to a faraway galaxy where we're a secret agent for the Intergalactic Federation. We fly about at warp speed in a spaceship that can time travel, and we have to save the universe from the evil Florgons with a magic space thing, possibly while wearing spandex. Sorry, I drifted off there. The other way is where we disappear into our own memories. That could be a distant memory, or it could just be an argument that we had recently.
Excuse me, sir, I find you less entertaining than sitting in front of a mirror and watching my eyebrows grow.
Then 3 hours later we figure out what we should have said. Yeah, well, you're a stupid poo-poo head. That told him. In either case, we're completely removed from reality in those moments. That's not to say that any of this is bad. Daydreaming can foster creativity, problem solving and introspection. It allows us to explore ideas and scenarios in a completely safe way, and all without lifting a finger. However, it can also be counterproductive when we've got a task that we need to focus on. Driving would be a good example. The Waite Smith card has the classic image of the figure gazing in wonder at the cups. Waite says strange chalices of vision, but the images are more especially those of the fantastic spirit. So the 7 cups are each said to contain a mystic symbol or desire. We've got jewels to symbolise riches, a victory wreath, a dragon to symbolise fear, a castle to represent adventure, a sort of godlike head, a snake which can mean wisdom, and then there's this. I don't know what it's meant to be, but it's giving me the screaming abdabs. Anyway, together it all represents the flights of fancy that we take when we're bored or easily distracted. Or it can be when we're obsessing over something and imagining all kinds of different outcomes. Rachel Pollack says, with the 7, the cups problem emerges in its most direct form. She's referring here to the downsides of living in a fantasy world and not engaging with reality. In a bit of a throwback to the previous 2 cards, the 5 of cups was about loss, while the 6 was about memories. So this card can also be about living in the past. It could be what happens if we don't walk over that bridge to acceptance that we saw in the 5. Author Jane Guildwell once said, you can clutch the past so tightly to your chest that it leaves your arms too full to embrace the present. The Thoth card? What do you say about that? It looks like a sewer. I'm half expecting the Ninja Turtles to jump out and start breakdancing. Crowley says the lotuses have become poisonous, looking like tiger lilies, and instead of water, green slime issues from them and overflows, making the sea a malarious morass. I don't know what a malarious morass is, but I'm guessing that it's probably a bit grim. Somehow the card manages to look like it actually stinks. Luckily, Milo Duquette gives us a slightly easier analogy. He says this card seems like the next logical step in the abundance, luxury, disappointment sequence. 3 martinis is abundantly enough. 4 is just the luxury of showing off. 5 is disappointing because you're not getting high anymore, you're just getting smashed. I'm sure we've all been there at one time or another, but do we stop at 5? Oh no. He goes on to say, but after 7, oh dear, the 7 of cups is a stumbling dash to the lavatory just moments after you thought you were being irresistible to an attractive stranger. I've certainly had a few nights like that. I think this card is an interpretation of what the lavatory looks like afterwards. Anyway, I think it serves as a warning against getting bogged down in things like drunkenness, which could lead us away from the lofty ideals of the 6 just before it. It reminds me of temperance followed by the devil back in the trumps. Crowley says this card is almost the evil and averse image of the 6. It is a wholesome reminder of the fatal ease with which a sacrament may be profaned and prostituted. The Sforza and Marseille cards are still flowery and cuppy. 3 more and I'll actually have something to talk about. The Solar Busker has got Mr. Nudie Cutman prancing around. I don't know why, but I can imagine him singing Happy Birthday in the style of Marilyn Monroe.
It is, in of itself, a void card.
Maybe that's because we're all blackout drunk and have no idea what's going on.
The Hermetic title for the Seven of Cups is Lord of Illusionary Success.
So illusionary success could mean fantasizing about scoring the winning goal at the World Cup or rehearsing an acceptance speech at the Oscars. It can also mean when people become egotistical about things and develop an excessive sense of self-importance. I'm sure we all know people like that. The other title for the card is debauch. I had to look this up. The dictionary definition is to corrupt by sensuality, intemperance, etc., seduce. So I think this is going back to the excesses that we were talking about earlier. We can easily lose ourselves to the hazy happiness that comes from overindulging and going on a massive bender. The temperance card is the perfect antidote for that sort of thing. But getting back to the subject of illusionary success, I think it's completely normal to imagine ourselves succeeding in some way. How many times have you imagined what you'd do if you won the lottery? Or if that bowler hat with sleeves idea finally takes off and makes millions? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, it's just pleasant daydreaming. According to Scientific American, we spend 30% of our waking hours lost in our imagination, so there's nothing unusual about it. I think problems might arise if the daydreams take on a more sinister tone, like we're imagining unpleasant things like failure or some kind of punishment. Intrusive thoughts is a term that's used to describe random things that arise in the mind and cause feelings of shame, guilt, or embarrassment. If you're a human being, and if you're watching this then I assume that you are, then this kind of thing is inevitable, but if it's taking over your life then obviously that's no good. Your mind's trying to tell you something that you need to figure out. Getting the cards out and doing a tarot reading would be my advice.
That's your advice for everything.
That's because it works. By the way, if you're not a human being, then hello to our robotic overlords of the future. I loved you in Short Circuit.
The Seven of Cups corresponds to the Scorpio zodiac sign and to the planet Venus.
We've got sexy Venus in Scorpio for this one. Our funky little arachnid friends are getting ready for a bit of Netflix and chill. This particular astrological placement is extremely intense and passionate when it comes to love and desire. It relates to the Seven of Cups in the sense that Scorpios can be very good at exploring beneath the surface, and that can enhance their ability to immerse themselves in their dreams and passions. When we throw Venus into the mix, that can manifest itself as someone who's very open about their fantasies and desires. Sounds like a good night to me. Venus in Scorpio celebrities include Better Call Bob Odenkirk, Batman's nemesis, him, and my girl, Anna Klumsky. She's not actually my girl. It's not like I'm stalking her or anything. That whole thing with the restraining order was just a misunderstanding. We had a good laugh about it. At least I think she was laughing. I couldn't really see because I was 50 yards away and my binoculars had steamed up. Anyway, Anna Klumsky was also amazing in Veep. If you haven't seen Veep, why haven't you seen Veep?
The Seven of Cups resides in the world of Briar and sits at the seventh Sephira of Netzach, on the Pillar of Mercy.
So we're at Netzach, the Sephir of Victory, but it can also refer to perpetuity or endurance. In the watery world of Briar, Netzach can be thought of as the emotional energy that drives us to pursue our goals. It connects to the Seven of Cups in the sense that the card is one of dreams and desires, and Netzach can give us the strength and endurance to turn those into reality. We're quite low down on the tree here, so we're further away from the divine source and closer to the human experience. It's at the bottom of the Pillar of Mercy, which is seen as the more passive and receptive side of the tree, so that would explain some of the pitfalls of losing ourselves in our imagination. Crowley warned us that straying too far from the pillar of mildness could lead to us being engulfed in those feelings of shame and regret that we were talking about earlier. He says, lose direct touch with Keter, the highest, diverge never so little from the delicate balance of the middle pillar. At once the holiest mysteries of nature become the obscene and shameful secrets of a guilty conscience.
The Seven of Cups herb is juniper berry. This is best known as the main ingredient in gin.
They say gin can damage your short-term memory. If that's the case, then just imagine what gin can do.
But what does it all mean?
The Seven of Cups is all about grand dreams and visions. That can go either way. The more vivid our imagination is, the better we can see our desires manifested in our mind's eye. Waite says fairy favours. Any chance you can lend me a tenner?
Bugger off!
Images of reflection, sentiment, imagination, things seen in the glass of contemplation, some attainment in these desires, but nothing permanent or substantial is suggested. And I think that's the kicker. When he says nothing permanent or substantial is suggested, he's referring to these things just staying in our mind and never going anywhere. If we spend all our time imagining successful outcomes, that can prevent us from doing the hard work that it takes to actually get there. In a relationship sense, it could mean a person being obsessed with someone to the point where all they do is imagine them living some kind of idyllic life together. But they never do anything about it because if they got rejected, then the dream is over and it's back to reality. Rachel Pollack says emotion and imagination can produce wonderful visions, but without grounding in both action and the outer realities of life, these fantastic images remain daydreams.
If we read for a lady, it tells her that she will be caught by the rain.
Don't forget your brollies, it sounds like it's going to shit it down. When the card appears upside down, it's all about doing something with those illusions and starting to manifest them in the real world. Waite says reversed, desire, will, determination, project. We all know that imagination is an amazing thing, so we don't ever want to lose that. We just want to put it to good use and not get lost in it. Rachel Pollack nails this. She says the card reversed means a determination to make something from dreams. This does not mean rejecting fantasies, but rather doing something with them.
When this card is in the reverse, it warns that you will be betrayed. I'm thinking of moving to a more successful occult channel.
What? You can't.
Why not?
Because then I'll be the stupidest person here.
There's not much in it, to be honest.
The big takeaway for the Seven of Cups is that it's wonderful to have these fantastic dreams and visions, but we need to keep an eye on reality too so that we can turn them into something real. It's a nice place to visit, but we don't want to live there. Imagination is where we get to plant the seeds. Reality is where we get to see them grow. George Bernard Shaw once said, imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire, you will what you imagine, and at last you create what you will.
Thank you for staying tuned all the way to the end of this absurd claptrap here at Kippi's Quest. May the coming days be favourable, and we hope you'll have the vision to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.